No dog sold or raised for illegal purposes. This is a historical and entertainment-based channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Oh, yeah. Episode 47, yeah. Yeah. Irish Tom and the Justice Dog. The Busenbark original blend explained. Gators part in Busenbark. Let us analyze the evidence on this episode of Bulldog Court. Bulldog community, please rise. This is your host, Get a Hold James, because we got to get a hold of the game.
Court is now in session.
Yo. This is your boy, Get a Hold James, because we got to get a hold of the game. I'm so happy that you could join me tonight. You could have been anywhere else in the Bulldog streets, but you decided to come kick it with your boy. And I'm so happy that you did. You underdid. I'd like to thank everybody for checking out last week's Bulldog Court episode 46. Man, we was all the way live, man. I'd like to thank everybody who checked out all of the captivities that we had on that evening, you know, from the court cases to the live after show. I'd like to thank my cap brothers, King T and Pressure Kennel Combine. You know what I'm saying? And we get into a lot of capping that's been going on here, there, and throughout history cap. You know what I'm saying? Cam Newton cap. 5-gallon bucket worth of cap. You know what I'm saying? And once again, I'd like to thank everybody who came in and commented and who checked us out. And also, too, during Bulldog Court, to check out the proceedings that I had going on that evening. Now, let me start off the show the right way. But I am not the judge nor jury, for it is up to you, the Bulldog community, to decide which way the tide may roll. But we're not going to prolong the time. For my first case, Irish Tom and the Justice Dog. Let us look into this. Before I begin, I want you to know, if you didn't already hear it in the opening introduction of the show, that there is a overall arching theme for this show, and that is the Busenbark dogs and the theories and concepts, in my opinion, as I present them to the Bulldog community as to why this blend came into play in such a original, or some people may say a unorthodox way of coming to a very familiar result and blend. But he just went about it a different way, a very unique way, which is the beautiful thing about the APBT and how you breed and breeding philosophies and methods. You can do the same thing somebody else did a different way, using the same families or a little bit different, and come up with the same results. You just went another way. You took another street. You went down another avenue, but y'all both ended on at the same cornerstone of success and victory. I would like to get into Irish Tom and the Justice Dog. Now, I had to begin here. I felt as though it was necessary to begin here rather than beginning with champion Busenbark's Rattler, which we will get to later on in this case. But I must start with his sire. I think his sire is very important as to how this original genesis, if you will, started with some very, very high caliber Eli Carver at his very best, in my opinion. You may say different, but as we get into this pedigree, you will see why I feel as though this is some high powered stuff. Okay. Irish Tom's Justice is out of La Pace's Buster. Some bullets from the Art Smithsy breeding. Bred to Morgan Sandy POR, which is out of Davis's Midnight Cowboy, and Carver's or Davis's Piggy. Also out of Bullison, bred to Carver's Jill. Carver's Jill out of Her sire is Steinberg's Diamond, bred to Carver's Little Polly. So we seeing a beautiful blend of Eli Carver, and this would be, of course, some high power stuff in my opinion, just by the pedigree and being a winner and come down to the performance. But then we look at his siblings. One of his siblings is the Rebels champion Sundance Register of Merit, which is the sire of Grand Champion Shady Lady, Grand Champion Sandy, Champion Cleopatra, Champion Stefano Elwood, who was the sire of Mountain Man's Deadwood, some of my favorite stuff, and also Clovis, 2-time winner. So his little mate brother was owned by the Rebel and is the sire of Grand Champion Shady Lady. So if you know anything about Busenbark, we will talk about that on the next case as it pertains to having. It's one thing to look into old journals and stuff and look at their records and performance and all that stuff, but there is a degree of knowledge you have to understand the little mates and who ties into what as far as building a family is concerned. Because if you had no knowledge about who his little mate brother was, then you would not be able to tie in certain things down the line as Mr. Busenbark begins to build his family of dogs. This is the whole overall arching theme of this show, is how Busenbark went about how he would build and cultivate this family of dogs. This is just one example, but also too, we see, I have to mention this dog just for historical purposes, because I have covered those dogs I believe once before on a video that I have on the Sporting Dog Archive channel, which is TDK's Ring. That's 3 Dog Night, and how they was able to take Ring and breed him. He's a son of Justice, bred to Sorrell's Miss Boomerang, who is off of Boomerang, bred to Davis's Peggy, which is a heavy Cloud Zeke and Ironhead dog. So just an example of the way in which they was breeding the Irish Times Justice dog, other than the sir name what I'm about to mention right now, and that is Busenbark's Champion Rattler. So I felt as though it was important for me to begin with the sire of Champion Rattler to get you to better understand the foundation dog of the Busenbark line, which to me it is the Rattler dog. Busenbark's Champion Rattler Register of Merit. Not only could he perform well, but he could produce. And so we see where Irish Tom is bred to Merritt's Rosy Red, which is off of Snooty, bred to Brewer's Copy, which is Johnson Zeb, one of the more famous sons of Boomerang, bred into Brewer's Honey Babe, which is out of Snooty, bred to Cooper's Champion Honey. So we looking at this like this dog overall with the Snooty and Boomerang and the Midnight Cowboy, all of the La Passe Buster stuff. It is bred, to perfection as far as any Eli Carver man is concerned. The Rattler dog is bred, he's bred like a dream. And so this is the starting block of the Busenbark line as far as I'm concerned, as I explain this case. And how do you feel about this as a community of how he was able to start off? He started off with winners, coming off of, and he created a winner off of a winner, and he bred back into that, it was bred back into similar families, which is the Snooty and the Boomerang stuff that goes with the La Passe Buster stuff on the Arch Missy side. We know that Boomerang and Arch Missy supposed to be little mate sisters, supposedly. We know that Johnson Zeb is a well-known Boomerang dog, and of course Snooty being a half brother to La Passe Buster, both of them being out of Arch Missy, supposedly. And so this is just something I want to touch on. I wanted to get your opinion and what you thought about his foundation of where he started from, and we'll go on into our next part of the case. So for the case of Irish Tom and the Justice Dog, this case is now dismissed. We'll get back to the show after these important messages.
Add these reading materials to your historical literature collection of the American Pit Bull Terrier. The Big Red Handbook, Family Bred and Raised, Dogs, Dogmen, and Bloodlines, and the Schoolboy Keep. Contact Richard Schoolboy Garcia on Messenger and purchase your part of history today.
Yeah. And for my second case, the Busenbark Original Blend Explained. And here's a short video. Like to hear it. Here it go.
We start with Busenbark Rattler and the significant dogs and breedings that help to create what we now know as the Busenbark family of dogs. The first breeding with Rattler that we will look at is Rattler to Busenbark's Honeydew Rom. This would produce Busenbark's Grand Champion Breezy, Hers Champion Blanco, Billy the Kid's Champion Bad Girl, and Busenbark's Barney Rebel. Barney would go to produce RBB and Westside Whoride's Champion, Larry BSK and Puig's Little Raven, and also Busenbark's Junior Register of Merit. Junior would play a significant role in the Busenbark dogs. Junior is out of Busenbark's Barney Rebel bred to Rebel Kennel's Grand Champion, Shady Lady. Shady Lady is sired by Rebel Sundance. Remember I told you in the previous case that Irish Tom's Justice and Rebel Sundance were brothers, which makes Rattler and Shady Lady first cousins. Junior would produce Shoot 'em Down's Grand Champion Manny, Shoot 'em Down's Champion Ziggy, Break 'em Down's Champion Mayhem, Champion Tadpole, Hillside's Champion Betty, and Deep Sea Kennel's Champion Jeezy the Great. Another Jeep female he would use is Busenbark's Asia Girl. Asia Girl is a sister to Havana Boy's Champion Budweiser. Busenbark would breed Rattler to Busenbark's Asia Girl to get Busenbark's Haze. Haze will show up in our next case.
So, as we can see and hear that the Busenbark family of dogs are starting to take form when you look at the breedings done with the Rattler dog to the Honeydew. So they implemented the Jeep into the blood, and then took Busenbark's Barney Rebel and bred to Grand Champion Shady Lady to produce Busenbark's Junior. Okay, so he implemented the Rascal, the La Passe Buster through Irish Tom's brother, Rebel Sundance. And then you got the Mountain Man Spider Biting, which is Rascal and Honey Bunch coming from Rascal Jr. and also La Passe Buster from Mark's Midnight on the Homicide. So we seeing, it started to shape form, and Busenbark Jr. throwed tremendously for Busenbark, and I'm looking at the Grand Champion Manny dog by Shut 'em Down Kennels. They bred Junior to Shut 'em Down Kennels Xena, which is off of Shady Bill, which is off of Mountain Man's Elwood, which is a brother to Shady Lady, and Shady Bill is out of Elwood, bred to Grand Champion Shady Lady. So it's, brother and sister breed to make Shady Bill. And they bred him, Shady Bill, to Rule Snoopy, Register of Merit, which is a double bred Larson's Red Ed and Jeep female. Larson Red Ed is out of La Passe's Buster to La Passe's Queen. Red Ed is a brother to Mark's Midnight, which is Homer's Dam. So we seeing a tie-in of different families, of these families of dogs that are bred very, very similar. And we see what he's building on. So almost kind of like a Jeep Rascal with some Eli Carver, extra Eli Carver thrown in. But like I said earlier, Busenbark did not go the traditional route that we commonly see by breeding maybe, a son of Jack, a Jeep to something out of Honey Bunch, or he didn't go the traditional route. He went his way to creating a very similar bred line of dogs so far. So we will proceed forward and look at what else he put into play. Like I said, as you can see, he had more than just Asia Girl and more than just Honeydew. He had some other dogs as well. For example, he had Busenbark's Swamp Dog, 3-time winner, 2-time loser. And for those people that have never seen a dog off Jeep, a brundle dog off Jeep, here you go. I'm going to put a picture of him right here. He was dealing in a lot of Jeep at that time, and also dealing in a lot of Mountain Man Homo, Rascal, the Passe Buster blends to go along with his Rattler champion. So we will move along from here and see what else did Busenbark do to continue to build on this family of dogs. And we're seeing constant winners. I'm not going to call out all the winners, but do your own due diligence to look up all the many different winners that came out of these types of breedings, registered merit PORs and champions, multi-winners that came out of it. So not only could they perform well, but they were also reproducing themselves. And like I said, once again, he did not use the traditional route. For those people who want to be breeders, sometimes you can use the same families or of dogs, but using different individuals within the family. You don't always have to go and get Jeep. You can use Charlie Blood. You don't always have to go and get Bingo. You can use some other type of red boy. You see what I'm saying? You don't always have to go and get Tab. You can use Tramp. You can use Ernie. You can use another strand. You don't always have to get Chinaman. You have lines that are Eli Snooty bred that are not Chinaman bred dogs. You see what I'm saying? You got the Molly B to Snooty strand, which is a Eli Snooty strand, but it's not the traditional way that most people see it from Chinaman. We're gonna move on. I look forward to hearing people's, comments. I look forward to seeing what people have to say to discuss the matter of building a family, such as the way that Busenbark did it in a more unorthodox way. Instead of following the trends, he used different strands, and some very strong strands, I might add, that were different from the norm. And also, if you look even deeper, he did not do a lot of inbreeding, but he bred more uncle to niece. Instead of half brother and sister, he would breed more cousins together and things of this nature, therefore making him have a more original blend. So for the case of the Busenbark original blend explained, this case is now dismissed. Yeah. And now it's time for my third and final case, Gator's part in Busenbark. And before I begin the case, these are really not, for tonight's episode, this is not really cases, as you can hear. This is more of a Bulldog community hearing, if anything, just to hear out what I'm saying about the Busenbark line, the overall arching theme of tonight, and the way in which these breedings were made. And he took dogs that were maybe the brother or sister of another kind of dog that might have been more famous or some things of that nature, or he just went about it a different way. I thought it was very unique in the way in which Busenbark bred up his family of dogs. So we want to start, when I say Gator's part in Busenbark, I'm talking about none other than Rodriguez champion Gator, who is out of Tab Irene, the famous Tab Irene breeding. Later on down the line, after much success with the recipe that he had already cooked up, he later implemented champion Gator. So now that Gator comes into play, we are seeing even more of a very familiar recipe of the Jeep Red Boy Eli, or Jeep Red Boy Rascal. He used Mountain Man Homer a lot, through Shady Lady, the Spider Bite 'em, dogs of this nature. You know, of course, Rebels Sundance, that's tied into Irish Tom's Justice. So very similar. So I'm gonna say Jeep Red Boy Eli. So eventually he would get to something that's very familiar to many of us, but he would go about it in a totally different way that was unorthodox. Okay. So let us look at the first one I want to look at is none other than Busenbark's Crib, Register of Merit. So this dog would produce extremely well for Busenbark, producing dogs like Busenbark's champion Ice Baby, who won, you know, in 3 different states, 2 different dog men's hands. But she is bred, Ice Baby is bred, she was bred off of Busenbark's Blackie to Busenbark's Crib. Blackie is out of Busenbark's Junior and Wilson's Pebbles, which is out of Busenbark's Barney Rebel. So Junior and Pebbles are half brother and sister. So there was a half brother sister that somebody else did, not Busenbark, but Wilson did this breeding, look like, to Pebbles and Junior, to get the Busenbark's Blackie dog. This is a common thing. You know, you got in Blackie, you got, of course, you got the Shady Lady, you know, which is the Mountain Man Homer, La Passe Buster strain of animals, along with the Barney Rebel, who is out of Rattling Honeydew. That's your Jeep and your Eli Carver, you know. And so, along with the La Passe Buster, and then at the bottom, some more Barney Rebel with Roche's Carly, which is a Brock's Charlie. So that's some more Rascal. So we seeing where, you know, we know that those combinations have worked separate. We know that Schoolboy's Big Red was a Jeep Red Boy La Passe Buster cross going through Grand Champion Miss Rage. So that was Jeep to Miss Grand Champion Miss Rage, which is a double bred La Passe Buster. We know that combination worked and can produce. And we also know that the Jeep Red Boy Rascal can indeed perform and produce. You know, look no further than, you know, just take a pick of any one of the great Jeep Red Boy Rascal dogs, a Blackjack, Weird Jack, Dink, you know, which, you know, adding the Chinaman in there with the Dink dog. So just same recipe, same formulas, but he went about it in a different way. Also too, another dog I would like to cover is a dog called Busenbark's Gypsy Wind, POR. She was out of Busenbark's Gideon, which is out of heavy Jeep blood from Busenbark's champion Swamp Dog, bred to Busenbark's Honeydew, Register of Merit. So that is a half brother sister. Both Swamp Dog and Honeydew is out of the Jeep dog, side by Jeep. So that's a half brother sister on the Jeep, bred to Busenbark's Delta Lady, 2-time winner, which is a little mate sister to Busenbark's champion Rattler. And I don't hear many people talk about Delta Lady. When they talk about the Busenbark dogs, they really hang a lot of attention, and rightfully so, on champion Rattler as the foundation, but he also had the sister, and he bred Busenbark Gideon to Busenbark's Delta Lady, which is Rattler's sister, to get Busenbark's Gypsy Wind. And out of that came, they bred Gypsy Wind to Busenbark's champion Rattler to produce Busenbark's champion Hooker. And, you know, champion Hooker won all 3 under 26 minutes. Impressive female. Then they took Hooker and bred to Rodriguez champion Gator to get a dog like Tupper's Nelson. So we seeing where he is tying these dogs back into each other. He have made you know, used the Gator dog on different females through his bloodline with success. So we seeing the recipe coming and taking form. Also too, another dog I said that I want to look at that will come show up in the show is Busenbark's Hayes, that I told you about earlier, off of Rattler and Busenbark's Asian Girl, which is a daughter of Jeep. They took him and bred to Busenbark's Trouble, which is out of Junior, Busenbark's Junior and Busenbark's Gypsy Wind, to produce Busenbark's champion Mallory, 3-time winner. This dog, I believe, was one time owned by Hillside at one time also. So this is just to close it out on this case, on this overall arching theme about the Busenbark dogs and how these dogs all tie into each other. The brilliant nature in which Busenbark tied these dogs into each other. And you can really kind of say that they ended up being Jeep Red Boy Eli with a Carver twist to it from their inception, you know, with the Snooty and Boomerang from the Rattlers, from the Rattler dog. So, and you can see that sprinkled throughout. And, you know, also too, he did breed Rattler to China Girl, to throw some exceptional animals too. So he very much was in tune with the Eli Snooty or the Eli Carver crosses in different ways, implementing later on the Jeep Red Boy. Well, he used the Jeep from the beginning, but came back with the Jeep Red Boy to close it out and to solidify his line, in my opinion. And so, but never mind what I think. That is just my opinion. I'm just one person. But what do you think in the Bulldog community? How do you feel about the Busenbark dogs? How do you feel about the Busenbark dogs of today? How do you feel about Busenbark's method in which he bred up these animals? Would you have taken that route, or would you have went a more easier, more conventional route? I look forward to hearing your comments. I look forward to hearing your commentary on these subject matters. And in the case of Gator's part in Busenbark, this case is now dismissed. Yeah. And now it's time for my closing monologue. Like I say every time, make your next move your best move, but move strategic, like a chess move. Say, man, I'm looking forward to seeing the next episode of Bulldog with Bo, Sunday, 7 p.m. Central Time. I'm looking forward to seeing what topics Big Hill got. Going hard, reloaded. Even Pro back out here talking that talk. Samurai Killers and the Shogun Army. You know what I'm saying? Big Scratch TV, man. I'm always checking them out. Here in Bulldog. There's a lot of good shows, man. Y'all need to check them out. But this is your host, Get a Hope James. Because we got to get a hold of the game. I'm out.
Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, and tell a dogman or woman about the Sporting Dog Archive.